Hi, my name is Marcus, and I used to think love made people better. Now I know it just shows you who you really are when everything else is stripped away. Before June, I lived a quiet life. I wasn't lonely, not exactly, just unchanged. I went to work, came home, scrolled through the same 3 apps, ate the same microwave dinners, and convinced myself that stability was happiness. My coworkers joked that I was a spreadsheet in human form. They weren't wrong. Then came June. She showed up like a storm disguised as sunlight. We met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner, one of those crowded city restaurants where everyone shouting to be heard over the music. I noticed her before I heard her. She had a laugh that cut through noise like a blade, not loud, but alive, the kind of sound you feel in your chest before your brain even catches up. She was sitting across from me, hair falling out of a messy bun, eyeliner slightly smudged. There was a wine stain on her dress she didn't seem to care about. When the waiter brought the cake and everyone started singing, she caught me not singing and raised an eyebrow like she was silently challenging me. I sang after that. We talked all night. She told me she was a graphic designer, that she hated small talk but loved people who listened. I told her I wasn't very interesting. She said, "That's only true if you believe it." By the time the check came, I knew I'd never be the same again. We started seeing each other every weekend, then every day. She was impulsive and I was methodical. She dragged me to art galleries or night markets or random road trips with no plan. I used to hate spontaneity. With her, I found it intoxicating. She made the world feel unscripted. After 6 months, she moved in. I remember how our apartment changed instantly. My minimalist gray and white decor was invaded by plants, colors, and clutter. It felt alive. She felt alive. I'd wake up to the smell of her shampoo, the sound of her humming while she got ready, the lightness she brought into every corner. I wasn't the kind of man who believed in fate, but I started to. It's funny how love doesn't die all at once. It erodes. A chipped edge here, a quiet sigh there. The first sign was so small I almost missed it. She started working late. Deadlines, she said. I believed her, of course I did. June was talented and ambitious. Late nights came with the job. Then it became a habit. Dinner alone, cold food left on the table, the glow of her phone in the dark while I pretended to sleep. She said I was becoming paranoid. Maybe I was, but paranoia is just curiosity dressed in pain. One night she came home smelling different. Not like her floral perfume, something sharper, masculine. I asked if she'd changed since. She laughed. "You're so weird, Marcus." She kissed me, quick, dismissive. I remember thinking that the kiss felt like punctuation, not affection, the period at the end of a sentence I didn't know we were writing. I started noticing the lies. The way she'd say, "just my coworker," when I asked who texted her. The way her laughter changed when she spoke on the phone. That soft, private tone she used to reserve for me. It didn't sound like mine anymore. The night I found out was by accident. Her laptop was open. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But her email notification popped up, a message preview from someone named A. The subject line read, "Last night was perfect." That was it, 5 words, enough to destroy everything. I opened it. It wasn't just A, it was Aaron, my best friend since college. The man who'd helped me move into this very apartment. The man who introduced me to June at that birthday dinner. There were dozens of emails, photos, inside jokes, plans. I read every one, even when it made me sick. I wanted to feel the pain fully. I wanted it to etch itself into my bones so I'd never forget. I closed the laptop, went to the bathroom, stared at myself in the mirror until I barely recognized the reflection. The Marcus I saw there wasn't angry, not yet. He was hollow, quiet, dangerous. That was the night I decided I wouldn't confront her. Not yet, I'd wait, I'd learn, I'd control the narrative. Because love had made me gentle, betrayal would make me precise. "Hi, my name is Marcus," and after that night something in me went still. People think anger is loud, that it's shouting, slamming doors, breaking glass. But the real kind, the kind that burrows deep and festers, is quiet. It sits in your chest and watches you. It studies. It waits. I became a machine. Every routine stayed the same. I cooked breakfast, went to work, answered messages, kissed June goodbye. But every gesture had a purpose now. Every smile was reconnaissance. For weeks I watched her, not like a stalker, like a scientist. I learned her tells. When she lied, she'd touch her hair. When she felt guilty, she avoided my eyes. I could almost see the guilt flicker across her like static. Aaron, my best friend, still came around sometimes. That was the hardest part, pretending I didn't know. We'd sit on the couch, beers in hand, the three of us laughing at some show. Their laughter felt rehearsed now, almost synchronized, like actors afraid to break character. I began collecting evidence. I backed up her emails, cloned her phone with a mirroring app, took screenshots of every text. I even placed a small recording device under her passenger seat. It wasn't rage driving me anymore, it was craftsmanship. The night I first heard them together, her voice, soft and trembling, whispering his name, I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there in the dark and listened, letting the sound etch itself into me like acid. That's when I stopped being Marcus the man. I became Marcus the instrument. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to beg or fight. I was going to dismantle their lives with the same precision they'd used to dismantle mine. Aaron was easy to understand. He worked for a private tech consulting firm. High security, strict privacy. Reputation meant everything. I'd helped him land that job 2 years ago, wrote the referral letter myself. Poetic, really. I created a fake profile, a client, interested in contracting his firm for a large project. I used VPNs, proxies, fake IDs. When he took the bait, I sent him a sample of confidential data, embedded with metadata that looked like it came from within his company. Then I tipped off the firm anonymously, saying one of their employees was leaking trade secrets. He was suspended within a week. June comforted him. I could see it in the way she disappeared earlier and came back quieter. I didn't need to see them together. I could feel the guilt vibrating in the air. Next was June. She worked as a senior designer for a marketing agency. She loved her job. It was her identity, so I targeted that. I sent a folder of her personal photos, the ones she'd shared privately with Aaron, to a burner account and forwarded it to her company HR. No context, no explanation, just the evidence. They fired her for professional misconduct. 2 lives cracked open like eggs, and I was the one holding the spoon. But revenge doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like silence. Heavy, endless silence. You expect satisfaction, but what comes is emptiness wearing a mask of victory. Still, I couldn't stop. I needed them to know who had done it. The night she came to me, crying, shaking, mascara running, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She didn't know I'd seen it all. She thought she was just unlucky. "Everything's falling apart," she said, voice trembling. "I don't know why." I told her to sit down. I poured her a glass of wine. She looked at me like maybe, somehow, I was still her safe place. That was the last illusion I ever broke. I told her everything, every step, every file, every email. I told her how I'd watched her for months, how I'd planted the seeds that destroyed her and Aaron both. When I finished, she didn't scream. She didn't throw the wine. She just looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You think this makes you strong. It doesn't. It just means you never stopped loving me, you're still chasing me, even through hate." Then she left. That line haunted me for months. I didn't want it to be true, but she was right. My revenge wasn't power, it was obsession. Aaron overdosed 3 months later. The article called it an accidental mix of medication and alcohol. But I knew he'd been unraveling since the suspension. No job, no reputation, no support. I stared at his obituary for hours. The guilt didn't hit me all at once. It came in slow waves, crashing harder each time. I told myself he deserved it. I told myself I hadn't killed him. But lies are funny things. You can only repeat them so long before they stop sounding like comfort and start sounding like confessions. After that, I stopped sleeping, stopped eating much. The apartment felt like a tomb. Her plants died one by one. My reflection started looking older, colder. The silence got heavier. That's when I realized I hadn't avenged anything. I just extended the suffering. Hi, my name is Marcus, and I used to think revenge was balance. Now I think it's gravity. It pulls everything down, no matter how high you climb. After Aaron's death, I disappeared from everyone's life. Quit my job, sold the apartment, moved to a smaller place near the river, the kind of place where nobody asks questions because everyone's hiding something. I told myself I'd start over. New city, new name, new routine. But every morning I woke up expecting the knock, police, journalists, or June herself. Sometimes I'd imagine her watching me the way I once watched her, cold, patient, calculating. I almost wanted her to. It would have been fair. There's something about guilt. It doesn't just sit quietly. It finds ways to remind you it's still alive. Mine spoke through little things, a flicker in the light, a creak in the floorboards, a name whispered by the wind that sounded too much like Marcus. I started talking to myself again like I did as a kid. I told stories not to others but to the empty room. Stories about how I was the hero who took justice into his own hands. But somewhere in those stories, I became the villain without noticing. A year passed before I saw her again. It was at a bookstore in the city, one of those old ones with narrow aisles and the smell of dust and coffee. I didn't even recognize her at first. She looked stronger somehow. Tired, yes, but composed. She noticed me before I could walk away. "Marcus," she said, not angry, just tired. We stood there like ghosts meeting at their own graves. She told me she'd been in therapy, moved in with her sister, tried to rebuild. I didn't know what to say. Apologies felt like bandages on a corpse. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You think you destroyed me. You didn't. You just burned everything until there was nothing left but truth. You hated that I lied, but you built your revenge on lies too." And then she left again, just like before. Only this time, it wasn't betrayal that hurt, it was clarity. That night, I went home and looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. I looked for the man I used to be, the one who believed love could fix anything, who thought forgiveness was weakness. He wasn't there. What I saw instead was someone unrecognizable, a man carved out of obsession, sculpted by vengeance, hollowed by guilt. I realized something then. I had become the perfect reflection of the thing I hated most, the liar, the manipulator, the betrayer. I'd always thought June and Aaron betrayed me, but the truth was simpler. We'd all betrayed something: love, trust, decency, in our own ways. They did it through passion, I did it through punishment. Different sins, same result. That's when I started writing this. This post. You're reading it now, maybe curious, maybe judging, maybe seeing yourself in the cracks. People always romanticize revenge in movies. The cheated lover who gets even, the scorned man who outsmarts everyone. But they never show what comes after. They don't show the nights you wake up sweating because you hear a dead man's name in your sleep. They don't show how victory tastes like metal and ash. They don't show that once you destroy the people who hurt you, the only thing left to destroy is yourself. I guess I'm writing this because I need someone to know that I wasn't always like this. There was a time when I loved her so deeply it scared me. A time when Aaron was my brother, not my enemy. A time when I believed the world was fair. That's all gone now. It's strange, the things you start noticing when you've burned your past to the ground. The sound of your own breathing. The way dust collects on surfaces no one touches anymore. The quiet click of the keyboard as you type your confession into the void. Sometimes I reread this whole post before hitting submit. I wonder if it even matters. Would anyone believe me? Or would they think it's fiction, just another creepy Reddit story meant to farm upvotes and sympathy? Maybe that's the best outcome. If people think it's fiction, maybe I can hide behind the lie again. Because the truth is too heavy to carry anymore. I've thought about ending it, more times than I'll admit. But then I remember her face, that moment when she said, "You think this makes you strong." And I realize that ending it would just make her right. So I keep living. Not because I want to, but because that's the real punishment, waking up every day knowing exactly what you've done, and having no one left to blame but yourself. Hi, my name is Marcus. And I used to believe revenge was justice. Now I know it's just love that's been left to rot. If you ever find yourself holding the knife, figuratively or otherwise, thinking it'll make you feel whole again, drop it. Walk away. Because once you start cutting, you don't stop until all that's left is blood and silence. And when the silence finally answers back, it doesn't sound like victory. It sounds like your own name, whispered from the grave of the person you used to be.